La diffusion vient de démarrer. Tous les participants sont en mode écoute seul.
Hello everyone. So we're going to start the webinar regarding the Sigfox SDR dongle. So my name is Aurélien Lecartier. I work at Sigfox in the adoption team, where I am in charge of developer relations. And today we're going to go through how to use the Sigfox SDR dongle. And so I'm going to have a couple of slides to show you, and at the end we'll do a demonstration of the different softwares that you can use with the SDR. Okay, so regarding the SDR dongle, to give you a quick overview, so basically it's a tool that we have developed at Sigfox that is composed of a hardware solution and a software solution as well. So it is actually a USB stick with an RF connector on top of it, and that you can connect directly to your device. So with the hardware, you've got a couple of cables that are provided. So you've got SMA connector and UFL connectors that you can use to connect directly to your device. And we've got a software suite as well. So we've got the Sigfox Network Emulator and the radio signal analyzer that we're going to go through into details afterwards. But basically, the SDR dongle is used to emulate the Sigfox network. So it is not directly connected to the Sigfox backend. It basically emulates a Sigfox base station, so to retrieve the radio signal of devices, and it also emulates features of the Sigfox cloud. So you can configure callbacks as well to send your data to your application servers. And by doing that, you can do some full end-to-end IoT testing using the SDR dongle. The other application for the SDR dongle is linked to the radio signal analyzer, where you can use it basically to do some pre-testing for the Sigfox Verified Certification. So we have one slide regarding Sigfox certification for the one of you who don't know the different certifications that we have, and we will present that briefly. But to start with, let's go through the Sigfox Network Emulator. So the Sigfox Network Emulator, it's a Windows and Linux application that you can download on the Sigfox build web. As we said, emulate both the radio network and cloud callback features. So basically, to download it, you can just go on the Sigfox build website, so which is build.sigfox.com, and from here you can look for the SDR web page. And on the web page, so you will get information about the SDR dongle, and here the first section of the web page is about the Sigfox Network Emulator, and you can download the different software directly here for your Windows or Linux operating system. And you've got also a couple of user guide and resources that you can access. So the Sigfox Network Emulator is good for different use cases. The first one that is interesting for the SDR dongle is when you want to test your solution where you don't have any coverage. So at the moment, Sigfox is present in 45 countries, and we are rolling out the network in 45 countries, and the goal is to get into 60 countries by the end of the year. But if you don't have any coverage in your area, but you want to develop a Sigfox IoT solution, the SNE is a perfect tool for that to start testing your application. The other use case is, as you may know, with Sigfox, we have different frequency bands. So we've got a radio configuration 1 in Europe, which is using 868 megahertz. But if you go, for instance, to the United States or Mexico, it's a different frequency, which is 902 megahertz. If you go to Latin America or to Asia, it's going to be 920 megahertz. So you've got different radio configurations. And so using the SDR dongle, what is interesting is that you can choose from the different radio configuration and test your IoT solution for different regions. Because as you may know, because of regulations, you cannot, for instance, transmit over the air. For instance, if you are based in Europe and you want to develop a solution for the US market, you won't be able to transmit at 902 megahertz because it's not allowed by local regulations. So using the SDR dongle and connecting to your device, as you are using cables, you are in conducting mode. And by doing that, actually, you can directly test different radio configuration. Also, last interesting thing regarding SDR dongle is when you want to do like full end-to-end testing. So from your device to your application, and you don't want to transmit directly on the Sigfox backend because you don't want to use your subscription. By using the SDR dongle, you can just do it locally and do a full end-to-end testing between the device that you are developing and your application server. Okay, so just to talk briefly regarding Sigfox certification. So we've got two types of certification, which are Sigfox Verified and Sigfox Ready. And basically, when you want to do a Sigfox solution, as we say in the bottom of the slide, to get a certified product, you need to get both the Sigfox Verified and Sigfox Ready. But in most cases, so for instance, when you are using a Sigfox module, all Sigfox modules are already Sigfox Verified. So in this case, you just need to go through the Sigfox Ready, which is basically a radiation testing to check the transmit power of your device. The Sigfox Verified Certification is usually dedicated for semiconductors companies that are making modules, or it can also be used for companies that are like targeting very big volumes. When you are targeting very big volumes, using like transceivers, you can get lower prices regarding your end device. So in this case, you will need to go through the Sigfox Verified and integrate the Sigfox stack and the Sigfox modulation into your product. So that's what is the Sigfox Verified. As we said, Sigfox Ready is focused on radiation testing. One last case that can be interesting for the Sigfox Verified is, for instance, if you have an existing design of a device and you want to add Sigfox connectivity. So for instance, if you have a device for LoRa connectivity, you can go through the Sigfox Verified to make it compatible with Sigfox. Okay, so the second software that we have available with the SDR dongle is a radio signal analyzer. This one is especially useful for the Sigfox Verified. So if you go through the Sigfox Ready, if you are using a module that is already Sigfox certified, you don't basically this software will not be the most useful for you. It is really useful when you are going through the Sigfox Verified certification and you want to do some pre-testing before going to the certification. So the way it works is that we provide a Debian image that you need to copy on a USB stick, and then when you launch the Debian image, you've got a software that you can run, and that will allow you to test the radio compliance for the Sigfox Verified. So basically, like the main feature of this software is especially useful when you want to check the device modulation and demodulation testing. So when you are transmitting, the SDR dongle will demodulate your signal, and so we will check the modulation quality of the device. And same thing in downlink. So the SDR dongle will send a signal to your device, and then you will be able to check that the demodulation on your device is working correctly. It's also useful to look at data rate and phase accuracy, also for spectrum occupancy. So spectrum occupancy is like something very important when you go through certification, and especially afterwards when you go to the CE and FCC certification. It's very important to get a very sharp spectrum. So That's the features that you can test with the radio signal analyzer. So as for the SNE, you can get the radio signal analyzer directly on the build website. So if you look on the menu on the left, you can go to Sigfox RSA. And here, RSA getting started. From here, you can download the Debian image. Okay. So before going to the demonstration, if you are interested to get the SDR dongle, it's available on two different websites. So we've got our partner Yadom, who's a French company where you can buy actually the SDR dongle. It's also available on the DGK website. And as we have mentioned at the beginning, the SDR dongle comes also with RF cables. So RF cables with SMA connector and UFL connectors in order to be able to connect to your device, plus a 40 dB attenuator. So it's the 40 dB attenuator is actually very important because of the sensitivity of the SDR dongle. Like if you connect directly your device to the SDR dongle, you may get some failures. So it's really important to use it. And if you want to get more information, more resources, for instance, if you are interested to get all the details of what you can do with the radio signal analyzer, what are all the tests that are available, you can go on the build website by following the link build.sigfox.com/SDR dongle. Okay, so before going to the demo, we may have a question to ask to you. So I think, Alexandra, if you're online, if you can push the poll.
Yes,
request.
absolutely. So I have a short poll for you about Sigfox coverage in your country. So just a few seconds to answer, please. Just 10 seconds more. Okay, thank you very much, and let's start the demo.
Okay, so for this demonstration, I'm going to use a PyCon SciPy board. The SciPy is actually a board made by our partner, which is actually using MicroPython. So it's very easy to do some quick prototyping. So I'm using Atom to connect to my board. I'm just doing this to retrieve typically the ID of my device and also to send messages. So here I've got the ID of my device, which is 4037DD. And so I am going to run the SNE, Sigfox Network Emulator. Maybe it's already started. Okay. Okay, so once you have plugged the USB SDR dongle, you can run the Sigfox Network Emulator, and then you will arrive on this web page. So it's like running a local web server. The first thing that you will need to do is to configure the radio zone. So as we have already said, we've got different radio configuration with different frequencies on the Sigfox network. So as you can see, we've got different radio zone. Radio zone 1 is for Europe, 2 is for US, Mexico, Brazil. Radio zone 3 is Japan. Radio zone 4 is mostly Latin America and Asia. 5 is Korea, and 6 is soon to be live country. So here I'm using RC1. Then I go on the devices menu on the left, and from here you can put the IDs of the devices that you want to use. So here I have already registered my SciPy board with the 4037GD ID, so all is good. You can also configure callbacks. As we have said, it's like it's limited number of features compared to the real Sigfox backend, but you can from here create new callbacks. If you want to test a downlink from here, you can also create either callback downlink or direct mode downlink, and then enter all the callback information. And depending on your network, IT network, you may need to configure proxy as well. So here you've got also a possibility to add a proxy. So configuration is quite simple. If you have already used the Sigfox backend, there will be nothing new here in the configuration. The next section here is the messages. So if I click on messages, for now I don't have any messages yet because I haven't sent any at the moment. And last option that you can see on the screen is authentication. So as you may know, on when you are using Sigfox, we have authentication and integrity protection. So we are using AES 128 encryption mechanism, so security keys, to authenticate and do integrated check of messages. So when you are using authentication enabled, you need to actually move your device to what we call AES public key. So on each Sigfox device, most of Sigfox device actually, you've got possibility to switch to like the Sigfox global AES key. And so by doing that, you will be able to get your messages authenticated by the Sigfox SDR dongle. If for some reason you don't have any, you cannot switch to this public key, then you can just disable authentication and messages will be received, but we won't be able to authenticate them. And one of the consequences if you disable authentication is that you won't be able to test downlink messages because your device will reject basically the messages because it's not integrated check will be failed. So in our case, we're gonna just use authentication, and I'm going to go back to my Atom ID. So here I just got this simple Sigfox Hello World that is used to configure basically like Sigfox mode. So I'm using RCZ1. Here I'm creating a socket, I'm printing ID and pack information. And here, just at the end, I'm sending like a couple of bytes over the network. And here, so for instance, when you use the PyCom board, you've got a specific function, which is a public key. And so when you set it to true, it sets the messages to use the public key. So we are going to run this program. So as you may see here, it's running. Okay, I may not be connected to the good port. Let me check quickly. CON28. Settings, CON28, that's correct. Okay, let's connect. Okay, let's run. Okay, so here it displays ID and pack as provided here in the program, and then it's sending a message. And so see, as I come back now on the interface, I've got my device ID 4037DD displayed with a sequence number and with the data that I have just sent. So like if we look at what I have received and what I have sent here, I can retrieve the different bytes. So as you can see, it's quite easy to get started with the SDR. As I have said here, I'm using authentication enabled. I could also disable it now because even if I use a public key, if you disable it, basically you will be able to receive messages from your device. But as I said, authentication is required if you want to test the downlink. So I have another example program here with the downlink enabled, which is basically doing the same thing. The difference is that it's just sending 1 byte, and then it is printing the output of what the SDR dongle is sending in downlink. So if I go back to my configuration, I go to callbacks. Here I have just created a simple callback for my devices. So if I click on edit, you can see here that for the downlink configuration, I'm using direct mode. So I am not using a callback for this one, but for instance, if you have an application server and you want to do full end-to-end testing, then you will need to select callback and then put the HTTP URL of your web server here. But here we are using the direct mode, and basically what we are sending in downlink is a timestamp and the ID of the base station that received the message. Okay, so let's go back to the Atom editor. So I will just reset my device, select the Sigfox downlink, and click on run. Okay, so it's displaying my device ID again. If I go back to my interface, I have received a new message with a new sequence number and with the payload 0F. So as you can see here, the uplink callback worked. Here, the downlink one is pending. As you may know, with the Sigfox uplink and downlink, basically when you do downlink, the Sigfox device sends an uplink message with a flag saying that I'm expecting a downlink message. And 20 seconds later, 20 seconds to 40 seconds later, the downlink message will be sent back by the base station to the device. So here you see that the downlink message has been sent to the device, and the device replied with an out-of-band message to acknowledge the downlink message. And in this out-of-band message, the device is sending basically just simple voltage information and the RSSI of the downlink message. So here RSSI is pretty high because of course I'm connected directly between the device and the SDR dongle. If I go back to my Atom editor, so as you can see here, I've got device ID, and here's the downlink response here, which is corresponding to the timestamp and then the ID of the base station. But as here we are using an SDR dongle, there is no real base station ID associated to the device. So as you can see, it's quite easy to use the Sigfox Network emulator. The features are very similar to what you can have from the Sigfox backend. As I have mentioned before, one other reason to use the SDR dongle is because of the radio signal analyzer. So radio signal analyzer is, as we said, it's useful when you do Sigfox Verified Certification. So here I am using an already certified device, but we can still use the Sigfox radio signal analyzer to look at it. So here, my radio signal analyzer is actually using, I'm using actually like a virtual image, just for the sake of the demonstration, but to be sure that to get a stable software, it is better to actually use a USB stick. So you download the image from the build website, and then you copy it on a USB stick and you boot directly from the USB. Because if you are using a virtual image, so like I'm doing right now, you may have some stability issue during the testing. So we always ask people to use directly a USB stick. But once you have started it, you can click on Radio Signal Analyzer. You accept. And here I am just enabling basically the USB driver for my virtual image, but it won't be required if you are using directly the USB stick. So once you do that, here on the left side, you can basically do first the device configuration. So if you want to be able to look at the decoding of the data, you need to provide the ID of your device. Of course, like if you just want to look at the content of the data, the Sigfox Network emulator that we were just looking at before is it's much easier basically to start with. And you can also choose between public key or the private key. If you have access to it, you can also put directly here the private key. And then you select the radio configuration that you want to use. Okay. Then here you've got different test modes. So basically the test mode that you can see here, you can get information of the details of what it means if you are going through the Sigfox Verified Certification. So for instance, if you go through Sigfox Certified Verification, if you go on the resources.sigfox.com, here you can access lots of documentation if you don't know about this website. And so from here you can look for Sigfox Verified. And for instance, I will look for Sigfox Verified Radio Configuration 1. I look at the specification. Here you can download the document. And from here you will get basically all the details of what you need to do to go through the Sigfox Verified Certification. So here you will get a lot of information to understand what it means here in the radio signal analyzer when you select the different test mode. Okay. The last thing to configure is here the tester, but here we are using a SDR dongle, so it's easy. You can also do some RF setup, but if you are just using the attenuator and the RF cable provided in the kit, you just keep the same the default value here, and it will be good. So then you open the USB interface, and then you can start the tester. So as you can see here, I am displaying the spectrum of the signal on the device. And so if I send a message, you will see that we will see the peaks on the spectrum. So let me try to split the window. I will just use the Sigfox Hello World. Okay, here we're good. And I will run. So here you can see some peaks. It's probably just some leaks from devices around me. Okay, let's run. So you see here, I've got one peak on the right, another peak here, and another peak here as well. So it's quite interesting to use the tool. So as I said, it's useful when you do Sigfox Verified Certification. But if you are also curious to know more about how Sigfox works in general, you can of course just download the image and start playing with it and see how it looks like on the spectrum. You've got also different measurements available. So as I said, when you go through Sigfox Verified Certification, you need to comply with our certification. So for instance, here you've got information regarding the spectrum. So you've got the narrowband spectrum, the intermediate, and the full one. You've got also information regarding the data rate. So as you know, like when you are using radio configuration 1, the data rate is 100 bits per second. And so basically, you need to stay, the device needs to stay between 99 and 101 bits per second in order to be Sigfox verified. So you've got all the Sigfox verified items that you can access from here. You can also look at the frequency distribution when you are doing the testing. So all the details regarding radio signal analyzer, as I said, you can find all the details for that in the Sigfox Verified documentation. So you can go directly on the resources.sigfox.com to get access to them. Okay, so I think we're good for the demonstration. Probably we can go through the Q&A, or maybe we've got a couple of poll questions to ask Alexandra.
Yes, thank you very much, Aurélien, for your presentation. We can start first the question and answers part. So feel free to ask any question by raising your hand on the little window you have on the right of your screen, or either on by writing your question on the question part. So we have a question from Edson. Can the SDR dongle be used for antenna tuning when using a Sigfox Ready module in the design?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. So regarding the SDR dongle, so when you are using the radio signal analyzer, there are things that you cannot do with. So it's you cannot use the RSA to do frequency tuning. So it is not appropriate to do frequency tuning or to check the transmit power of the device. So if you are doing antenna design, as we don't have any frequency tuning available in the software, it's unfortunately it's not possible. So if you need to go through to look at frequency tuning and signal level of your device, so basically to check your antenna performances, it's usually the best thing to do is to use a spectrum analyzer or a vector analyzer.
Okay, thank you very much. Stefan is raising his hand, so I switch your microphone on. You can speak now, please. Sorry. Where is? Yeah, you can now, please.
Hello, thank you for very nice presentation. I have asked about on a dongle. You said we can connect our device to a dongle via cable, but can we put antenna on the same place on a dongle and wirelessly communicate with the dongle?
So yeah, it will work if you put an antenna. It's not the default configuration, and like especially if you want to go through the radio signal analyzer. In this case, it's important to use the cable, because otherwise you could get like interferences from the environment around you. But if you just want to test basically reception of messages using using the Sigfox Network emulator interface like this one, okay. Using an antenna would be fine. Just be sure that you still have some attenuation in between. Like if you just put your device next to the SDR dongle with the two antenna, the power will probably be too high for the SDR dongle to demodulate the signal. So either you put an attenuator between the dongle and the antenna, or you put your device a bit further away.
Basically, just the distance is small, right?
Yeah, but like when you buy the SDR dongle, you will get an attenuator provided. So what you can do is just put the attenuator and then like normal dipole antenna, and then you will be able to communicate. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This is my question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions, Alexandra?
I switch my microphone on. So we have another question from Jerome. Has this presentation demo been recorded and will it be sent out to the attendees? Of course, we will send everything by email, and you'll be able to watch all the webinar on YouTube. So no problem, we will send everything to you later. Thank you, Jerome. So next one is from Mahmoud. Sorry. Can we use SDR dongle with MATLAB?
Good question. I'm not sure if I can answer this one actually. So when you say with MATLAB, basically, is your idea to create the signal from MATLAB and send it to the SDR, or it's the other way around, to receive the signal from the SDR and send it to MATLAB? Can you be a bit more specific?
Yes, I switch on your microphone on, Mahmoud, if you want to speak and answer the question. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, we want to connect the SDR dongle to the computer and receive the signal using MATLAB, and we can make some analysis on the signal that we received using the SDR dongle, not sending the signal via the SDR.
So basically, you want to just receive like the IQ signal from the SDR and send it to MATLAB, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So at the moment, I don't think it's something that's available. When you go here in the menu, as a tester, you could actually use a file instead of the SDR dongle, where basically you can play an IQ message, but that's the other way around. In your idea, it's to just receive the IQ with no processing. With the current version, it's not possible, unfortunately. I guess it's something we could do because like we've got the hardware
to do
the demodulation, but it's not available in the version.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Is there any other question?
Maybe in the next version.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other question for Aurélien? Okay, so I think everything is clear. So thank you very much for your attention, and of course you'll receive everything about this webinar and the presentation. So to end the webinar, I just launched the last poll about your satisfaction. It's very important for us to know if it is interesting for you. So let's start it. Just for a few seconds. Okay, perfect. Aurélien, do you have some words to add to end the webinar? Okay. I think this webinar is ended, and thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question about it, you can send an email to Aurélien. So, and you'll receive everything about the webinar tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.